Are we live? Patrick, can I get some confirmation from you?
Yes, we are live.
Okay, great. Are we recording? Seth, can I get some confirmation? Seth? All right, she's in the chat. Let me separate my chat.
Yes, we are recording.
All right, great. So let's just wait one more minute. At 6, I'll do a quick intro at 6, and then start playing some background music while we wait for panelists. Steph, if you want to jump in and do your famous project manager voice, go for it. So let's just launch officially at 6.
Okay, well, I don't look like much, but I am so excited to be here with you all tonight. I see that we have a bunch of people here ready to receive this information. Me, Mariella, who is the founder of Project Hearing, Patrick, who is the ghost in the machine right now and is making sure you can be here with us, and Natasha, who is the magical, mystical fairy who makes everything happen secretly behind the scenes. We're all working really hard to make sure that this week brings information, tools, accessibility, technology to people who need them. And that does not just mean those who are part of the deaf community or are hard of hearing. It means our hearing allies as well. So everyone who's here, you have a reason to be here, and our reason for being here is you. We love to hear from you, so feel free to chat us up. If you're chatting, it will come to us panelists, and that includes me and Mariella, Patrick, and Natasha. If you would like to ask a question specifically to Andy O, he will be presenting on survivalism, amazing presentation. Or if you want to ask Jen, who will be representing the Global Alliance of Text-to-Speech Captioning, definitely something we all need, then you can do that in the Q&A. So use the Q&A for those hard questions or for some of the lighter ones. Yesterday, we sparked off a great conversation about intersectionality, and we'd like to have more of that conversation. So follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, at Project Hearing. When the conference is done, the conversation does not end. If anything, it intensifies, and hopefully it will be accessible for you all. So without any further ado, we're going to start to present you with the thing you're here to learn. I'm super excited again, and feel free to chat us if you need anything at all.
Isn't she awesome? So thank you so much for that introduction, Seth. So what we're going to do now is we're going to let people just twinkle into the conference. We yesterday had people from all over the world. We had people from here in New York City. We had people from the Bahamas. We had people from Hong Kong. We had people from Texas, British Columbia. And basically just all over the place. So if you want to shout out where you're from, leave it in the Q&A just so that we know. But right now, we're just going to go ahead and play some music while we wait for people to trickle in, and then we'll start. And I'll talk to you in a few minutes. Oh, by the way, Patrick, if you want to put the header with the conference image, please go ahead and do that. And I'll talk to you guys in a few minutes while we finish setting up.
So we're still pulling some things together. Seems like I might have jumped a little early, which happens to the best of us. Like I said, I'm really excited. I wanted to give some shout out to our New Yorkers. I see Aria. Hey, We're also New Yorkers. That's why my apartment is so tiny. I see we have Oregon in the house. Hey, Oregon. And Pittsburgh, PA. I also see some people are coming from yesterday. Thank you for returning. Oh my goodness, Australia, Griffith University. Well, that's very, very far. Thank you for coming. And I'm going to be a bit corny and say, from down under. So to all of those who were there yesterday, and don't worry if you weren't, we will send out a recording, so no worries. We got an amazing rundown on what the ADA really means for us now by talking about it in its historical context. That was inspiring. I don't think anyone had any dry eyes from here to Hong Kong. And then Mariella came and presented this really informational 30 tools in 30 minutes presentation. I know I learned a lot. I'm pretty sure everyone there did too. So we're going to send you that recording. And if you do miss any of our sessions throughout the week, do not fret. A recording of that session will be made available to our participants. So again, when we're done here, keep an eye out for some communications from us. And the easiest way to do that, follow us on social media. Right now, I want to make sure this is accessible for everyone. So there's two tools I want to highlight, to make sure that you have full control of this experience. The first is speaker view versus gallery view. Many of our presenters will have slideshows and they will be speaking and or signing. The interpreter will also be speaking and or signing. So in order to ensure you can see what you want to see, you can toggle between speaker view and gallery view to control your experience. The second thing I want to highlight is I want you to look at the bottom of your screen. You have the option to add closed captioning. You also have the option to control the size of that captioning so that it doesn't preclude you from paying attention to what's here in front of you. However, we want this to be fully accessible. So if you need your captions big, that's no problem. We're doing our best to make sure that our accessibility conference is accessible. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Since we're talking about accessibility, I want us to talk about our sponsors, Google, who brought us these wonderful interpreters, as you see here, and made sure that we were able to share this information with you completely free of charge. Big shout outs to Google. So some more shout outs, since I see there's so many new people here. Where is everyone from? Feel free to shout it out in the chat. So far we have people from all the way in Australia. It's right here in our hometown, New York City. I see Michelle's coming at us from Arizona. And Diana, I think that's New Hampshire. You can tell I'm a New Yorker because I don't have a lot of knowledge about the other states. I see someone's raised their hands. If you raise your hand, I have the opportunity to allow you to chime in via mic. I see Williams coming in from New York City, Arlene from New Jersey, Melissa from Washington State. I've always wanted to visit Washington State. I feel like it's so beautiful. Grace is coming to us all the way from London. This is super exciting. New York, yeah, that's my hometown. Bellingham too, wow. We have a lot of people from all the way into the UK. And Hong Kong, hey Kimberly, we're happy to see that you're back. This is really exciting. I'm personally really looking forward to learning about these survival tools. So I'm gonna hand it over to Mariella. Bye guys.
Awesome, thank you so much, Steph, for that. So what I am going to be doing with all of you is I'm going to be sharing my screen. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's do this. And all right, can everyone see my screen? You can leave a confirmation on the, yes, okay, we can see my screen. So welcome to day 2 of the Hearing Access and Inclusion Conference. Oh boy, I'm getting a phone call. I'm gonna turn my phone off. All right, so welcome to the Hearing Access and Inclusion Conference for 2020, day number 2 out of 7. So just a reminder that if you are going to be posting on social media, to use hashtag HAIC2020 so that we can keep track of who we're reaching, who's talking about us on social media, and so that we can document this wonderful event that is happening. We are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the ADA for 7 whole days. We are participating in history. What an incredible moment to be alive. So my name is Mariella Paulino, and I am the founder of Project Hearing. I was also the idea behind the Hearing Access and Inclusion Conference, and with the help of 3 incredible individuals that I will be talking about in just a moment, we put this event together. So, into the slide 2. So our agenda for today is I will go over the privacy notice. After that, we'll discuss the Zoom layout, discuss the why, who we are, go over today's discussion topics, go over some ground rules, and then the conference will start conferencing. So the privacy notice is that we are recording this entire conference. So that means that if you want to be able to have access to this conference media at some point in the future, you will be able to do that. So one of the things that we ask that you keep in mind is that if you ask a question, or if you say, my name is Mariella from New York City in the chat, that could be content that we could use in the future to say, Mariella from New York City was at the Hearing Access and Inclusion Conference. All right. Zoom layout. At the very bottom, by the way, am I speaking too quickly? Let me know. I speak really quickly when I'm excited. Let me know if you need me to slow down. All right. All right, I'll keep going. So for the Zoom layout, at the very bottom of the screen, you will be able to see a few buttons. One of them says Q&A. That's the button that you will click if you have a question for us as a panelist. If there's a concern, if somebody says something inappropriate that you want to bring to our attention, just go into that Q&A button at the very bottom of the Zoom screen. The why. Why are we putting this conference together? We are putting this conference together not only to celebrate the Americans with Disabilities Act. We are creating this because for me, I am a person with a hearing disability. I use a cochlear implant from a company called Advanced Bionics. And so it's a device that allows me to hear. And one of the interesting things that I've learned in the course of my life is that so many people don't know what a cochlear implant is and what a great piece of technology it is. And Project Hearing really started back in 2013 because over the course of a period of time, I had a lot of people ask me, what's that thing on your head? And I kept having to explain to people what that thing on my head was. And it was very informative for a lot of people. And I just feel like it's my responsibility to educate and create awareness. And through a series of fortunate events, I am now hosting the Hearing Access and Inclusion Conference, and I'm so excited to be able to share in this moment with you. So who we are only 4 people that have put this event together. If you're just joining now and you didn't get to hear Steph's incredible presentation, like literally I would just come to this conference just to hear Steph, like I didn't manage because she's so good. So my name is Mariella, and I am the founder of the Hearing Access and Inclusion Conference. Sav is the project manager of this operation, so she makes sure that things are where they are supposed to be when they are supposed to be there. We also have Patrick, who is the tech mastermind behind all the technology that you're seeing here today. He's been responsible for making sure that the technology does what we need it to do. He speaks the robotic language of the computer. And then we have Natasha, who has been managing the operations, meaning the emails that you've been getting. She's the one that designed them, and she's been really just making sure that everything is flowing smoothly. And together, we are a power dynamo of just energy, creativity, and doing. So for today's workshop, we are going to have two incredible speakers, and I hope you are just as excited, if not more excited than I am, because these are some incredible conversations that we're going to be having today. So we are going to be having Jennifer, who is going to be talking on behalf of the Global Alliance for Text-to-Speech Captioning. She gave me a little bit of insight into her presentation, and I was just like, Jennifer, stop. You're going to ruin it for me. I need to experience the full thing as it's happening. And then we are also going to have, oh boy, I'm sorry if you hear the sirens. It's one of the challenges of having to live in New York City. You will constantly hear sirens and ambulances and fire trucks. But anyway, we also have Andy. So I have my boyfriend, Andy, and then I have Andy, who is one of my coworkers. And Andy and I both work for the same employer. And Andy is brilliant. And I say this because Andy was one of the very first deaf advocates that I had the pleasure of meeting in person. And I mean that in the sense that for most of my life, I really had been surrounded by people with hearing and people who had cochlear implants. And so I never really had the opportunity to be a part of deaf culture. And so Andy was actually the very first person that I met, that I interacted with regularly, that allowed me to be a part of that culture. And one of the things that I love about him is that he's constantly teaching me new things. So for example, one of the last conversations that we had, his wife is deaf and speaks American Sign Language, and I've never really had the opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with her, but he taught me something really cool because I was telling him, Andy, send my regards to Rachel, his wife, and he was like, and I asked him, Andy, how would I say that in American Sign Language? And he taught me how in American Sign Language, you don't say, send my regards to Rachel. You say, send Rachel my love. That's what I was trying to say. Simple, 3 words. And now I'm doing that with everyone. Simplify it, cut it down, make it accessible. And Andy is going to be giving a presentation today on emergency preparation. So one of the things that Andy has allowed me to do is really think about my deaf identity. When I take off my cochlear implant, I don't hear. And one of the fears that I have shared with him is that, Andy, I feel like if there was a blackout in New York City and the lights went out, or there was a zombie apocalypse and there was no electricity, I wouldn't be able to charge my batteries. And because I wouldn't be able to charge my batteries, I wouldn't be able to hear. And I was talking to him about these things, and I was going into a dark abyss of despair. And he was just like, calm down. And he has spoken to me multiple times about emergency preparation and some of the things I should be doing as a person with a hearing disability. And he's so smart and so talented, and he knows so much about so many things. And I'm so excited to share everything he has to share with all of you today. So finally, oh boy, I spoke too much. But use the Q&A if you have any questions. Be respectful. Try to foster inclusion. Respect that people have different experiences and be present because we put a lot of thought into this conference and we want to give you the best possible experience. So without further ado, I am now going to present our first speaker of the day, Jennifer, who will be speaking on behalf of the Global Alliance of Speech-to-Text Captioning. Jennifer, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, let me stop sharing. Maybe that will help. All right, so we need you to turn on your video. There you go. All right, ready to go?
I am. I'm going to share my screen right now.
All right,
And
I'm out.
And can you give me confirmation that you can see both me and the slides?
I can see it.
Okay, excellent. Well, Mariella, thank you so much for the opportunity today. I really hope to have just a tenth of your enthusiasm for this next half an hour. Let's see. I want to introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Shuck. I am currently the treasurer of the Global Alliance of Speech-to-Text Captioning. And our vision as an organization is for universal accessibility to the spoken word via all forms of captioning. You might ask yourself, why does there need to be an organization such as the Global Alliance? There is not one organization that solely focuses on captioning, regardless of the method. Our purpose is to be the leading professional authority on speech-to-text captioning, and we represent consumers, captioners, as well as the industry. So we like to say that we are method agnostic. And you're going to learn today the different methods of real-time captioning. So today we have real-time captioning here in this webinar. And I believe the method may be stenographic, but I'm not 100% sure. But you're going to learn about stenographic captioning, voice writing, as well as automatic speech recognition. You're going to learn which method is appropriate for which scenarios and what information you need to be able to make that decision, and then be able to apply that knowledge and the guidelines to have effective communication, whether it's at an event such as this, or a meeting, or one-on-one, or any scenario. So let's talk a little bit about definitions. Real-time captioning is what you're seeing here today. It is live, simultaneous display of the text that is being presented as the words are spoken. What you're seeing today can also be defined as cart captioning. So these definitions may overlap. So just know cart captioning can also be defined as real-time captioning. The acronym CART, however, can be confusing if you don't know what it stands for, or if you make a request for CART services, but the person that you're making that request to doesn't know what that means. And chances are, if they go to Google it, they're going to find anything but real-time captioning. But the acronym stands for Communication Access Real-Time Translation. So CART captioning is real-time captioning really in any other setting other than on television. Television captioning is referred to as broadcast captioning. And that's because there's an additional piece of technology called an encoder that's required to take the text and integrate it and embed it into that video signal to then get beamed up to the satellites, beamed back down to your television set, where there is another piece of technology that then decodes it when you turn the captions on. So broadcast captioning in general is referred to as the captioning that you see on television. CART captioning is generally referred to real-time captioning in any other setting. On-site captioning means it is done when the captioner or the service provider is in the same location as the event. That is happening less and less these days. More often than not, right now, you are experiencing remote captioning. Again, using today's experience can be defined as real-time captioning. It can also be defined as cart captioning. It also can be defined as remote captioning. So you could define it as remote, real-time, cart captioning. Another method of captioning, or another way that you would use captioning, is IPCTS, which is telephone captioning. And IPCTS stands for Internet Protocol Caption Telephone Service. This is the method of captioning that you use when you have a captioned telephone, when the captions are displayed on the screen while having a telephone conversation. And that actually can be produced using stenographic captioning, voice writing captioning, as well as automatic speech recognition captioning. Another method of captioning is text interpreting. And text interpreting is generally defined as a meaning for meaning translation, as opposed to a verbatim translation of the spoken word. So you may have heard of CPrint or Typewell, and those are examples of text interpreting. You still get the words in real time, but they're more condensed than being a verbatim translation. And then there is post-production captioning. Post-production is what you would see on commercials, on sitcoms, on movies. That is when there is a video that has been produced and then the captions are added before that video is actually broadcast or published. And that is a genre of captioning that is a niche market and very different than real-time captioning. In post-production, there should be no errors because all of that is done ahead of time. The syncing is done ahead of time. So you should be able to display the captions at the time the words are being spoken. And in fact, they're usually displayed about a second or a half a second ahead of time before they are spoken. And then there is on-demand video captioning. And this is where you might see captioning that shows up in one of your social media feeds. When there is a video that displays and the captions show up, this means that you don't need a specific playback device or a specific player to watch videos, but the videos are on demand and the captions show up. So as if that's not enough to learn everything there is about captioning, let's dive a little bit deeper into the different methods of how the captions are produced. So I am a stenographic captioner. That's how I was trained. If you have ever seen a court reporter in a courtroom with a machine that is writing down what everybody is saying, that is a stenographic court reporter. And so most court reporters, well, let me rephrase that. A lot of captioners have been court reporters in the past, but that's not necessarily the case. But steno captioning does take some time to learn because you have to learn what the keyboard layout is, and then you learn how to write different combinations of sounds at the same time using this corded keyboard. So if you think back and remember the days of pen shorthand where little squiggly marks meant certain things and you had to be trained in pen shorthand to be able to write that, same with steno captioning. You need to be trained to understand the way the keyboard is laid out and what the combinations of keys mean. So as a stenographic captioner, I write on this keyboard and I can hit multiple keys at the same time. And then those keys are in a database, and that database takes the word that I wrote in shorthand, translates it back into English. So not only am I writing what I hear and translating it into steno or into a shorthand form, then I have technology that takes that shorthand form, translates it back into English, and then sends it out to the consumer within about a second to a second and a half. And so you might understand when people talk very quickly and we are writing at speeds of upwards of 250 words a minute, one slip of the finger could produce a totally different word. And so sometimes that's why the errors occur. With voice writing, it is similar but different. So voice writing includes using some of the same technology. They also use a computer-aided transcription software. However, instead of typing what their shorthand is, they are actually verbally speaking their shorthand. So they're not saying specifically every single word that I would be saying. They're not repeating those exact words. They speak in a shorthand, so if there's terminology that's repetitive, that is multi-syllabic, they will create a short form of an utterance or a syllable and define that in their computer-aided transcription software. And then on the back end, they're also using automatic speech recognition, but their translation goes against this database that they've created and not the automatic speech recognition software. This method is very commonly used in the military, as well as in Europe, and you will see it more often in the southern states of the United States. It does take less time to learn than the stenographic method, but there is still training involved in providing captions using this method. And then there is also automatic speech recognition captioning. Most commonly, people will recognize this as the automatic captioning that is produced inside of YouTube. However, you should know that there are different algorithms, and they are not all the same. So Google uses an ASR engine in their YouTube. Microsoft uses their engine in Skype and Microsoft Teams. And then there are other engines as well used in different platforms. And you will also see automatic speech captions, ASR captions on television, depending on the television station. Some of them do use ASR. Okay. Things you need to consider when requesting captioning. You want to make sure that captions are accurate, consistent, clear, readable, and accommodate the needs of your audience. And that last piece is really important, accommodating the needs of your audience. Who is the audience? It might depend on who's making the request. Is it just going to be you who is going to receive the captions? Or if you're attending an event and you're asking for captions, couldn't they just make it accessible for everybody and display the captions for the entire audience? So the live captioning varies, depends on the needs and the expectations. If I have somebody who asks for accommodations for one-on-one at an event such as this, my first question is going to be, why not display captions and make the whole conference accessible to everybody versus just one person? And are they making the request because of accessibility reasons, or are they making the request because they want to showcase their technology and their automatic speech recognition? And it may depend on if there's going to be speakers using other languages or if they're using it to improve comprehension. So those are all things to think about if you are the person who is going to fulfill the request of the accessibility accommodation. So these are all things that you need to think about. Where will your event be held? Are you so lucky that you're able to do it in a convention hall? Or, and during these times, which platform are you going to be using? Are you going to be using Zoom or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams or some other event platform? And do those platforms allow for integration of accessibility? It seems like every time I turn around, there's a new platform. I just learned of a new one today. And of course, my first question was, well, let's see if we can get captions into this platform. So what is the format of the event? Is it going to be one-on-one? Are there going to be multiple speakers? How are they going to be speaking? Is it going to be Q&A or a roundtable? Is it going to be two-way interaction with audience participation? Or are we going to break out into sessions? Because if we break out into sessions, we go back to, are you making it accessible for one person? Or are you making it accessible to everybody? If you're going to have breakout sessions or multiple rooms, you're going to need more than one captioner. Or if you're using ASR, you're going to need that set up in more than one location. And as we already discussed, how many people will be there? How many people are you attending to affect with your captioning? Are you going to be streaming this in addition to just maybe being on site and local? And if you're going to be streaming it, will the captions flow from one platform to another? And let's think about that to make sure that your virtual audience is equally included. Will slides be shown? One of the biggest things is if there are slides shown, that content does not fill every corner of the slide. Because if you're going to put captions on top of that, we don't want to cover up any of the information that the presenter is presenting. Obviously, it's very important information, but the captions are equally as important. So we like to tell people to make sure that you leave space at the top or the bottom, depending on where your captions are going to be displayed, so that no content is covered over. And so when I made my slide deck, I already had an inch at the bottom and then realized, well, we're going to be using Zoom, so I didn't have to worry about that so much. Are there videos going to be played, and are they pre-captioned, or does the real-time captioner or the automatic speech recognition software need to caption those videos? Those are things that people don't think about. If they think about one piece of just providing the live content captioned, if there are videos, everything needs to be made accessible to everybody. And then think about one-on-one conversations. Again, it goes back to that audience piece of how many people are you providing services for, and are there any privacy concerns, whether you're using a live captioner or whether you're using automatic speech recognition. So here are some frequently asked questions and some technical specifications that you really need to be aware of if you are going to be the one who is going to be on the technical side of providing these captions. Captioners and ASR can only provide text for the audio that they receive. The better the audio, the better the captions. So in this day and age, Wi-Fi, if you're on site or even if you are remote, is a strong indicator of how good your audio is going to be. If you have low bandwidth or a poor connection, the audio will go in and out, and that really causes a lot of difficulty, and then the end result is poor captions. Is there going to be a soundboard if you're on site, or if there is a one technical location that is then streaming to other locations? You want to make sure that the audio doesn't come from just a speaker that's sitting next to somebody, or a speaker that is then being picked up by an internal microphone on a computer. You want to make sure that the audio connection is the best that it can be and comes directly from the sound system. You want to have a contact person for when there are technical difficulties. Is the event going to be recorded, and are they recording the captions with the video or without the video, or both? Because we also want to remind people that if they're recording it, that there are going to be people who are watching it in the future that are going to need the captions as well. And then how will the video and everything be displayed in the venue? You want to make sure that ideally the captions and the video image and the PowerPoint are all in a line of sight, and not have the captions off to the left, a video off to the right, and the person speaking right directly in front of you. So you don't want to have to look to the left for words, or right to see the video, and then if you're attempting to look directly in front of you, your neck gets tired and you're missing all of those pieces. So if they're all integrated into one, it makes for the best experience. Preparation materials. The more preparation, the better for your live captioners as well as your ASR. If there's going to be technical material or any specific terminology that's going to be used and going to be repetitive, to give that to your captioning provider ahead of time is super important. That also makes for really consistent and a higher quality caption. Will scripts be used? If there's going to be a script that mentions a bunch of names of dignitaries or sponsors, those are the names we never want to get wrong. So to have those ahead of time, to make sure that they get programmed in ahead of time and are spelled correctly is really important. You never want to get the dignitary or the sponsor's name wrong. So who's going to be responsible for gathering that material? Who's going to be responsible for making sure that the caption provider is actually going to receive it? We do our homework ahead of time, and we will go to an event website, but the more that you can give us, the better and the more prepared we will be. And I know we don't have much time left, and I'd like to leave a little bit of time for questions if there are any. So let me just briefly touch on captions, because the one thing that we always hear is, why are the captions so bad on television? And that is what we want to change. We want everybody to have fantastic captions on TV, because that's where the hearing public really can connect to what captioning is and how meaningful it can be, and frankly, how important it is. So what a lot of people don't realize is that the captions can be produced by a person, and they don't think twice about how they get there. They just think, oh, they just show up. So sometimes if it's a live captioner, the captions might be produced by somebody who does not even live in that particular market. I am based in Phoenix, Arizona. I used to caption television stations on the East Coast and in the Midwest. So those are not stations that I can actually visually see. I am only getting the audio through the telephone line. So I got very familiar with what the lakes and towns and cities and mayors were in those particular markets where I captioned. However, if there was breaking news and there was a name of somebody on the screen, I didn't have visual to that. So if sometimes you see a word that's spelled wrong, but right on the screen wrong in the captions, that's why your captioner doesn't have video. Also, there's just technology glitches that happen. Some stations still receive their captions via the telephone line. So we're actually sending the text via a telephone line. If you recall the days of dial-up internet, it's like that. So we're sending text across telephone lines, and there can just be transmission errors. Those telephone lines are going away as we develop and technology gets developed in the future. And so that causes some difficulty. There was a lot of difficulty in the transition between standard definition television and high definition television. But really, the question is, what is good enough? And frankly, anything less than the best is not good enough. And that's what we need your help with as the Global Alliance. We need the consumers to help us advocate to making captions better in all scenarios. If you see poor captioning on television here in the US, because I realize we have a global audience today, you can file a complaint with the FCC. But I would also recommend letting that particular station know as well. Start there. Most of them have contact information on their website, as well as a dedicated captioning page on their website. Let them know that their quality is not sufficient, especially in times like this weekend when Texas had a hurricane that was approaching. There is no more important time to have the best captions when there is an emergency. So let your television stations know, and let them know if they're doing a good job as well, because those are contracts. And so when those contracts are up, they need to know if they need to look for another service provider or if the one that they're doing is doing a great job. So Mariella, with that, I would like to open up for a few questions. I know we only have a few minutes. Here is all of our contact information. Please reach out to us. We are happy to answer questions. We are happy to do advocacy. Let us know what we can do to raise the bar for quality captioning.
Let me turn off my fan. Jen, yes, yes, I love it. So first thing I want to say is that you made a point that anything less than the best is not acceptable. I love it because it's so important to demand our rights. Self-advocacy, especially the last point you made about if you are watching the news and you are seeing bad captioning, you need to contact the station, you need to contact the FCC. So if you're watching this at home and you start seeing bad captioning, now you know what to do. You deserve accessibility. And as Jen said, there is no better time for you to demand that than in an emergency. So you need to demand your rights when there is not an emergency, so that when there is an emergency, you are ready. So thank you so much for that. Jennifer, go on.
You're very welcome. And the truth is that, especially when it comes to FCC and broadcast captioning, but even just the world in general, it is more often than not a hearing person that is making the decision for accommodations for the people with hearing loss. So they just don't understand everything that goes into it and the necessity that it takes to have the best captions and what is acceptable. Because anything less than the best diminishes your experience, and that is not an accommodation. So we need everybody's help. Everybody needs to advocate, and we as the Global Alliance want to educate hearing people to understand what it takes to make the best accommodation.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that, and I am here to support you in any way I can so that we can share that message with as many people as possible. So we have a few questions. The first question is, we have Carolyn Odio who asked, not quite sure where Zoom captioning is categorized. So if you were to categorize Zoom captioning, where would you put it in the list of categories that you shared with us?
If you could say that again, if I were to categorize what kind of captioning?
If you wanted to categorize Zoom captioning, categorize it.
Well, it depends on how the captions are being created, because in Zoom, you can integrate a live human captioner, whether they're using steno or voice, that can be integrated into Zoom. However, there are other options and there are other add-ons depending on your level of Zoom that can integrate automatic speech recognition. So what I define as quality may not be the quality that somebody else defines as being the best, but I've also learned as the Global Alliance that here in America, we rely on and expect more verbatim. American and Canadian captions are usually more verbatim, whereas over in Europe, they're a little less verbatim and a little bit more synopsized. But that's because that's what is acceptable over there. And so it depends on the method that's being used. Some methods are more accurate than others. But today we're having fantastic captioning.
Awesome. So the next question is, and I think I heard this too, but you had mentioned that you discovered a new tool. Did you say that? Or did I mishear you? And somebody else noted it. You mentioned you discovered a new platform today.
Oh, the new platform that I learned about is called Whova. It's spelled W-H-O-V-A. And I believe it's a streaming platform, and it integrates Zoom and Twitch and Vimeo, but it was one more platform that I thought, okay, let's talk about how we're going to caption that particular event.
Great. So we are basically going to go into the intermission. If you have any additional questions, comments, words of support for Jennifer, or if you want to connect with her, we are going to be putting her contact information in the intermission slide. It's going to be 5 minutes. Grab some water, go to the bathroom, and come back. We are going to be starting in about 3 minutes. So come back at 6:52. Jennifer, thank you so much for your presentation, and I'll see you in 3 minutes. You were amazing, and I'm so excited to talk offline.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm happy to type some of the answers to the questions as well.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. Have a great conference.
So we're gonna go into the intermission for a few minutes, and then we will be back, grab some water, and come back and join us in about 2 minutes, all right? All right, are we ready for the second part of the day? Yes, 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 we are. So right now we are going to be joined by my colleague, Andy. Oh, the second Andy in my life. And he will be presenting on hearing disability and emergency preparation. Andy and I have had lots of conversations about this because, as I mentioned earlier, I sometimes go into the dark abyss of despair and fear and terror, and Andy's just like, calm down, let's figure out solutions. So, Andy, I am so excited to have you present today. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready to go.
All right, great. So do you have a presentation or anything we can help you with?
Yep, I'm going to start.
All right, the floor is yours.
Yep, okay. Here you go. All right. Perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Andy, and I'm deaf, and I wear a hearing aid. And I'm not sure if I was born deaf, but my parents found out that I was deaf when 3 years old. And then I had severe profound hearing, and I had intensive speech therapy until high school. So I had a court service in my high school and college. And then I started to learn sign language after college. And then I love sign because I think it makes my life very easy. And now I'm married to my wife and she's deaf, so we use sign language. And but for this presentation, I'm more comfortable with speaking because it's my primary language, and I'm not 100% fluent with my sign language because it's on a complex level because it's a difference between like conversational level and presentation. I'll move on to next one. So I will talk more about my medical training. I am certified in BLS, so that means basic life support. And that means I am certified in using CPR and AED, so that means it's like an electronic device, it shocks your heart. And I'm also certified in mental health first aid. So that means I can identify if this person may or may not have mental illness or substance abuse. And I'm trained to use Narcan. That's a nasal spray if you overdose, so a pain spray and a bring back to life. And I also have street medic training. So that means I can treat many different kinds of injury, such as broken leg, broken neck, broken leg, or missing limbs, or laceration, stab wound, gunshot, blah, blah, blah. And the whole injuries have one thing in common, is bleeding. Bleeding. So my training is just to stop the bleeding, and that's it. What I cannot do is perform a surgery. No way, I can't stick you up or inject drug. That's not my job. But I'm not a medical professional or doctor or EMT, but what I am certified and trained in keeping you alive long enough for EMT to come and get you to ER, because the first 5 minutes is very important. So that's why my primary concern is stop the bleeding. And then my next concern is make sure that you are breathing. And next, so when you come to like disaster emergency preparation, medical concern is always the most important issue, because every single person is vulnerable. You're gonna have a medical issue or medical injury. So anytime the person is hurt and need to call 911, the average response time is like 15 minutes. And so you can see that the first 5 minutes is very important, because you could die, maybe bleed to death, or maybe stop breathing. So the biggest medical concern is the bleeding. So that's where I'm trying to stop the bleeding. So it's really important to understand that the average blood, the average adult has 1.5 gallons of blood. So you can get some pictures, 1.5 gallons of milk. And I'll talk briefly about the blood loss. So out of 1.5 gallons of blood, is typically when you donate the blood, that's about 10% of the blood volume. So that's about 1 pint of blood. Now, maybe you have an injury and you're bleeding, so between like 20 to 40% of your blood loss, you will experience a hemorrhagic shock. So that means you start sweating, heartbeat start beating very fast, sweating, maybe you lose your consciousness. And then if you are losing 50% of the blood, that's when you start to black out. And then when you hit 60% of your blood loss, that's very critical. You could die. But I would say if you arrive at the hospital by that time you lost 60% of the blood, and we'll see. Now, you understand the medical training, why it's really important to know how to stop the bleeding. Now, next part of emergency preparation is to establish communication plan. So it's very important to make emergency contact, like maybe a family member, maybe family members, caregivers, because maybe you have your elders or grandparents, and you want to make sure that your caregivers is available to help your elders. And maybe because you have because I have a hearing disability, maybe I am not aware of emergency situation going on outside, like say, fire alarm. So I have a neighbor who will knock on my door or come to me and say, hey, there's a fire alarm going. And you have friends and emergency personnel, local fire department or local police. That means it would be a good idea to contact the local police or local fire department to make sure that they are aware that you are deaf or have other disabilities. So we usually have it in the system. Non-profit organizations, so that means, for example, if you are evacuation, like a hurricane evacuation, you're supposed to make arrangements with some non-profit organization, maybe a church or Red Cross or some other organization, so that they will make evacuate early to safer place for your special needs, like wheelchair or any other special needs. Now next, we're going to make emergency plan. You need to make a plan, like where to meet if anything happens. And you have to decide on what way to go. So if there's a hurricane or if a terrorist attack or active shooting or any kind of like big disaster, you should know where to go and where to meet. And anytime like a big disaster, you will have thousands or millions of people calling, sending message to everyone. So that means the communication system might be unreliable. So it's very important to, like, if you have a chance to send a message to your loved one, you have to send it when it's so clear message, like, go now, meet at the point A. You can't wait to time over, like, oh no, what are you gonna do? What's gonna happen? Who are you gonna do? For wasting too much time and your phone might die, or anything can happen. Keep the message simple, short, and important. You need to have a buddy system because let's say you contact your mother, but you're wasting too much time to contact your mother, your friend, your loved one. It's too much time. So better to set up a buddy system so you contact your mother, and your mother will contact your aunt, and your aunt will contact someone else. So that's the buddy system. Saves a lot of time. And most importantly, you have to practice your plan, and you have to trust your partner. You can't have argument, disagreement over a plan. That's the whole point of making a plan. Practice it and make sure that you hash out any issue. Now, whenever you have a pandemic like coronavirus or 9/11 attack or a hurricane, your number one issue is getting information that you need. So here's the problem about when getting information you need. When most likely you check the social media, people maybe you got shocked and you check, is it real? Is it really happening? What's happening? So you're gonna deal with maybe fake news, misleading news, confusing information, contradicting information, and also when you watch like CNN.com, you see the videos like emergency broadcasting, but the problem is there's no closed captioning. It happens all the time. And when you watch TV news, there will always be accessibility issue, usually local levels, state levels, and federal levels. So usually at the very beginning of emergency situation, there's usually no captioning and no silence entertainment. Just something to keep in mind about. This is I'm showing an example Governor Cuomo of New York, and this is what it looked like at the beginning. There was no enterprise at all, and we had closed captioning. So that's the problem because some deaf people prefer sign language. So we comparing to Cuomo's office. So find the ad enterprise next to a person, and that was good. But however, here's the problem about this. In the TV, sometimes we have like the TV like a Fox News channel or whatever. They will shoot like 4 or 5 different views or the different angles. So it's terrible. And sometimes the governor will put up a PowerPoint presentation and the enterprise completely disappear. That's the problem. So we compare to the office, and then this is what they come up with. See at the lower right is the PIP done picture and picture. So that was a better solution. So the enterprise and PIP is always there. So one of it is the presentation or camera angles, but now stays that way. That's good. But here's the problem about that. The PIP view is too small. So maybe the older deaf people can see very well. So that's the problem. So we comparing to them, and now, this is what happened when the news station switched to like PowerPoint presentation. So sometimes the PIP disappear and the enterprise disappear. So that we compare. Now that was the solution. So you see the enterprise right there. But we also complain that it's too small. But we're still working out. So, okay, so where to get the vital information? Always get your medical information from medical professional, always, like CDC or WHO, like WHO or Surgeon General. But limited exception is maybe you can get the medical information from White House or government, but how you do not rely on the government, a person or non-medical professional for medical information. Period. And you should get available non-medical information from a governor for instructions. So that means like it could be about coronavirus testing for a kit or evacuation route or something like that. That's where you should get the information from. But you never ever get medical information from non-medical professionals. Period. White House, of course, you know this. White House is not always the most reliable source of information because every state is different. And of course, there are always political issues. And every state has Office of Emergency Management information page. So depending on where you live, go to your state OEM website and you have a lot of information. You have everything you need to know because let's say California has most likely earthquakes. We don't need that. Where I live is in New Jersey. We do not get earthquake, we get hurricane. So I access my state website, all the information about the hurricane, and then of course the OEM will have many information like kits, evacuation routes, or emergency contact. Every research you need. Go to the OEM website. You have everything you need to know. All right, so you have the knowledge, you have the information, but what about the training? You want to be better. So I watch YouTube and watch like a medical training or watch any kind of video and learn from that. You can also take a private lesson like driving or self-defense or to go gym, like getting better shape or whatever you want. If you want to get a medical training, you can check your work cost or sometimes I understand that the work cost is expensive. So there are some places to get free training in medical trainings like a church or maybe your work office, a CPR training, or sometimes non-profit organizations provide some training. Also, once you have all the trainings, you want to experiences. You want to put your training to use, so you can volunteer for race competition and practice your medical skills. And every skill is perishable. So that means once, let's say I watch YouTube video of something and I go, wow, that's cool to know. But if you never practice, you're gonna forget it. You're not gonna know it. So it's very important to practice it at least once a year. Keep practicing, keep your training updates. So with like the experience in like medical training, of course you can volunteer at youth organization or youth competition because they are always looking for volunteer medic. And if you want to experience like what if you have to evacuate and have to go out, so you could experience a camping, hiking, so you can test your physical limitation, your physical strength, or backpack, stuff like that. And you can also try have fun hobbies like gardening, fishing, hunting. So that means like you know how to grab food, you know how to make stew, then make do with what you have. Now, next, what to prepare. Of course, you have to plan ahead. Communication, emergency plan that you got it. And I suggest that you make a checklist and map because let's say something happened and you're confused and stressful, confusing. So it's really important to have a checklist right on your hand and you know what to do. Oh, I got my back, check. I got my medical case, check, check, check. And that's why the pilots, before they start flying, they have a checklist. Just a checklist because it's easy to forget things. And I suggest that you should print a map because remember your cell phone depends on internet, but sometimes internet does not work. So what's the backup plan? Just print a map. You have it ready for you. And plan accordingly to your current situation. So that means if you live in New York, you should not plan for earthquake. You should plan for what's more likely to happen in where you live. There's no one-size-fits-all solution because it's ridiculous. It's silly and there's no such a thing. Every case, every plan is specifically tailored for your current situation. And Mariella talked about 30 tools and 30 minutes, and to include everything you need to know, application to the phone, both recognition, about autos, whatever, and medical notifications, or a visual card, to say that I'm deaf, or you point it to the pictures. And now we're going to talk about go back. Go back means you want the disaster happen and you have to go. You grab the bag and go. And ideally, you should be ready to go in 15 minutes. So you should plan ahead and think about what to pack and what to take in 30 minutes or maybe 3 minutes because it's a health side. So keep in mind about that. Oh, and bug out bag and bag. That means that's something for a hardcore survivalist guy. You have a huge bag with everything you need. It's for a calculated worst case scenario. You don't need to do that. We will tackle more realistic situation, so we will focus on a go back. And when you pick a bag, use the bag, whatever you put inside in the bag, it should not be more than 10% of the body weight. So for example, I'm 155 pounds, so I should have 15 pounds of whatever stuff in my bag. And of course, you should wear your primary clothes that's comfortable and durable because you are expected to walk for many hours, many miles. So dress right for the weather. And wear your comfortable shoes because you're going to walk for many miles. And you have to pack your absolute essential items like your medication, medicines, flashlight, extra batteries, and a food for I recommend up to 3 days because American Red Cross suggests that you should have emergency supply for 3 days. That's the most common time when disaster happen to a federal response. So that means once the federal response, that means we have a shelter, emergency shelter, we have food, we have equipment. That's how long it takes between disaster and the government response. So in up to 17 hours, you are on your own. Maybe 911 won't be available for you. You are on your own. Expect that for up to 72 hours. Family pack is optional. You know, the one you kind of reach because when you have a backpack on the back, it's annoying to like keep moving in and out. So you want to keep your most important items in your family pack so it's easy to like reach, like maybe your identification or your food, one of those easy. And always test your gear, always, because if you never test your gear, you don't know if it's gonna work. You have no ideas. So you're better off with the old gears than brand new untested gear. Very important. Oh, just like I said in the disaster scenario, you are on your own for up to 3 days, so prepare for that. And general idea, like how do you pack a, okay, you think about, are you comfortable to walk and carry your 15 pounds of backpack for like 20 miles or 30 miles or 8 hours, because maybe you have to walk to like the closest shop there. So it's possible that you will walk a long time because let's say in New York City, the bus subway is gone, there's no Uber, nothing, you're on your own, so you're gonna have to walk. So ideally, your go bag should be already packed and ready to go at the most. It's right in the corner or right in the closet and just grab it and go, ideally. So that's an example of go bag. Small bag, only you can decide what best for you. Like maybe a backpack is good enough for like 1 day or 3 days. But I do not recommend carrying like a huge backpack because it's too much and it's very heavy and not going to be comfortable unless you're very fit and very experienced hiker. That's up to you. The most important kit to have is, of course, the medical kit. And what should be inside? You know, when you buy medical kits like this, when you buy this, just because you bought it does not mean it's gonna be great and have everything in it. Not always. But always, like when you buy it, I buy this and I open up and I look inside it, like what you have. So depends on your medical needs and your medical needs and your current situation. You should customize your medical kit according to that. Most medical kits have like bare medical tools, like it's maybe the one-time use, so not gonna walk around, and that's not good. Or sometimes they have medical supplies and it's like very few supply, or maybe it's crappy or expired. So you should replace the medical tools with a better equipment. So for example, it comes with I'm going to show you on the next picture of what we look like. And you should always add more medical supplies depending on your needs. All right, this is what the most common medical kit looks like. You see like a scissor, tweezer, band-aid, and stuff like that. But I have like 4 of them. I have in my car, I have in my backpack, I have in my office, everywhere, and they're all the same. It's like the scissor is like running bad. It does not work, so I got the better scissor that I can think, and it works very well, better quality. And the band-aids, I look at the band-aid, it's like very fragile and not gonna stick. So I do that out and put on like a better quality band-aids. and I see that like a bandage, like a wrapping, it's like a 1 or 2 pieces, so I put like a lot of it. And of course, it's really important, do not get tempted by what is or I might need it. Like you see the crew, oh, they have this, and it's very tempting to keep everything. But trust me, you do not need a tech treatment or look at the multi-tool star. I mean, what are you going to use that for? Like in your city, what are you cutting? A wood or the amputated thing? You don't need that. Just throw that out because you have a very limited space. And also, most of medical kits had like a rubbing alcohol, and I'm not sure what good is it because you know when you have an open wound, you're not going to apply rubbing alcohol, and it's painful. No way, I'm not doing that. That's painful. So I recommend you get wound cleaning solution with lidocaine because it will numb the pain and clean it and get a bandage. Unless you're okay with the rubbing alcohol. So my recommendation is when you get the medical kit, make sure that it's specifically designed for bleed control. You will most likely have bleeding, like maybe car accident, maybe someone attacked you, whatever. So you will always bleed. So make sure your medical kit is equipped for that. And I put a lot of medical supplies for enough for 2 or 3 people. This one is most medical kit is good enough for 1 person. So I put lots of stuff enough for like 2 or 3 people. I want to show you what happened in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. It's bad for everywhere. So what happened is because people were unprepared, unplanned, uninformed, undecided, and unsure. So that means never made a plan. That's why you got stuck and you're like, oh no, what's happening? So I will explain more about this soon. Okay, so you have your medical kit, you have your go bag, you have your medical training, great, and you feel brave, feel good. But here's one thing, constant, you need to know your limits. You have your disability, maybe you have a hearing disability, you have every disability, have a constraint on your ability to perform in case of a disaster. Like maybe wheelchair, you could be blind. Okay. You have medical issues, so it could be like a health condition or back problem or whatsoever. You have a physical limitation, so it could be a wheelchair or maybe you have a bad leg and can't walk any further. And it's really important, emotional and mental limitations. So that means, this is the very stressful, very confusing. So every person has different coping mechanisms, different like mental like way of dealing with it. Maybe some people shut down, or maybe some people upset. So you need to know what's the mental limit in case of disaster. Of course, pets and family members. So it's very uncomfortable thing to think about and to talk about because a lot of times in Hurricane Katrina, when people have to evacuate, they have to leave their pets behind. And I know it's very heartbreaking, but you have to decide it's very important to leave the pet or bring the pet with you. And sending to family members, maybe you have family members who are very sick and very serious health issues that they have to think about and preparing advance for that.
You have like 1 minute left.
Oh no, okay. I'm going to go into location depends on where you live. And of course, you have a financial constraint, so that means maybe you might have a lot of money, you have a limited budget, so you can accommodate. Little issue like maybe self-defense. You should know what the state laws on self-defense. Maybe your state doesn't prohibit gun, or maybe some state prohibits like a certain knife length. So no one knows you the best except yourself. So you should know your own limits, your own issue, so, and according for that and prepare for that. And my recommendation is try parking race or top model with your partner for both summers and winter because you want to test your limits, understand yourself better, and improve the teamwork skill. So this is an example of what tough mudder and spotting looks like. It's like you're going through terrible conditions, muddy, wet, cold, heavy, the physical state, and that's me crawling in the mud. And then I got better. So it was cold and terrible. And then this is the winter time. So I experienced the tough mudder and spotting in both summer and winter. People want to know how you deal with the hot weather and cold weather. And this is what happened in Hurricane Katrina if you're not prepared. So you're flooded, sick, or unprepared. And look at that. I don't know what's happening here. Why is this guy calling a fan or coat hanger? I'm not sure what's happening. That's what unprepared looks like. And a lot of times when you walk backwards in route, you will see roadblock or flooding, and someone said, oh no, you gotta go the other way. You have to walk a long ways around. So that's why you need a comfortable walking coat and go back with a 15-pound limit. And see, he's walking and pulling on luggage is just not very comfortable. And when you get to your emergency shelter, finally, this is what it looks like. A long line is not that to wait in a long line for emergency shelter. So that's why pack actually essential items. If you do not, this is what happens. It's a lot of garbage because you can't bring everything with you. See, lots of garbage. And this is what it looks like when going shelter. So that's why everything in your backpack is your home. That's when you have a bed, you have a blanket, and that's the best you have to make the best out of it. That's what it looks like. So you have to change the mindset. So you have to remove your ego, your pettiness, meaning. You have to remove that. You have to think teamwork survival because together you will get your goal. So your mindset will determine your outcome, and not the equipment, not the planning, not the it's you, your brain, your mindset. It's really help determine the survival chance. I think we run out of time, so don't worry about it. But I can give you a link for my PowerPoint, and I have a lot of information, and I put a note in it. I'll do it around, but all right.
Thank you so much, Andy. So I actually want to share with everybody. It was in one of these conversations with Andy that I actually came up with my own go bag. So light, and it's actually the backpack from Advanced Bionics. It's a really big backpack. I have in there my extra battery charger, a change of underwear, first aid kit. Love you for that, Andy. I also recently bought a power station. This is used for camping, but in New York City, where everybody has their air conditioning on, we have experienced a few blackouts, and this is actually one of the things that I bought after one of the conversations with Andy of, oh my God, what am I going to do in an emergency? So thank you so much for all of your time and your expertise today, Andy. I hope that the governor of New York City, Governor Cuomo, sees this conference and starts thinking about how he can be the best and most accessible governor in New York City history. So hopefully he'll see this and he'll get some tips. So Andy, there were a few questions for you in the chat. I would like for you to check them out when you can. We are going to close up because we are just a little bit over. But I want to remind everyone that if you are interested in connecting with me, go ahead and follow me on Private Hearing. Remember, we want to keep the conversation going. Seth share with you the link for a Facebook event group that we have. So if you want to keep the conversation going, go on that link. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Private Hearing, and I will do my best to respond. You can also email me at hello@privatehearing.com. In addition to that, I want to tell you a little bit about tomorrow and what's following after this presentation. Again, we do not want it to end here. So tomorrow we are going to be having Dimitri, who is going to be talking about the full range of tools. Well, not the full range, but a lot of really great accessibility tools that are happening at Google. I am so excited about his presentation. He's going to be showing you some really, really cool technology that we figured out how to work with Zoom. He's going to be showing you his magic. We are also going to be having Carolyn from the Center for Hearing and Communication. I've worked with Carolyn before, and she is brilliant. So she will be talking about some accessibility best practices. She'll be sharing some of her stories about best practices for people who you have to communicate but struggle with the mask. So here is the link for you to continue the conversation for today and yesterday. We also created a survey. So let us know what you love about today, what we could do a little bit better so that we can improve and continue to make this conference the best conference you've been to all year. Oh, this was not supposed to be there, but the tools from yesterday for 30 tools in 30 days, we'll be mailing that out. So don't worry if you see references to that. And then finally, if you need to contact us for any reason whatsoever, be sure that you send an email to us at hearingaic@gmail.com. And with that, we are done for day 2 of this 7-day conference. I will be seeing you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, for Dimitri and Carolyn's presentation. Talk to you all later. And for now, I'm going to play some really show cow music, and then we'll be closing out the Zoom. See you tomorrow. Day two completed. Oh, day two completed. Oh, day two completed. Oh, out of 7. Thank you. I think you all heard me do an Instagram live. I apologize for anyone who had to hear my voice, my singing voice.
It's like, this is so cool.
But
We get a free
anyway,
concert.
the conference is done. Patrick, feel free to close out this chat and we will continue the conversation on WhatsApp. For everyone that's still with us, we will be seeing you tomorrow. So how do we close the call, Seth?